This is In Depth. What caused a house to blow up on North Weinbach earlier this Wednesday? Well, the determination of a cause could take some time. Consider this: more than 3 million miles of natural gas lines serve homes in this country. Explosions are inevitable. The Evansville disaster is the latest. Investigators in Evansville say there is no evidence at this time of any crime in this local case. The cause remains undetermined. Earlier today, though, I talked to Troy Riggs. He was the chief investigator on the Richmond Hill subdivision gas explosion in Indianapolis almost 10 years ago. That turned into a case of murder. Troy, you have been taking a look at the security video of this explosion on Weinbach, and it is a very dramatic video. What jumped out at you when you saw that?
Well, just the magnitude of the explosion. I mean, to see that it happened instantly is significant. And then to see the debris field, the large debris field as a result of that. At this time, though, however, I would ask the public to give some patience and some grace to the investigators. They have a major task ahead of them. This is most likely the largest scene that they'll have to process of this nature. And there's a couple things they'll be looking for early on. They're going to be looking for a fuel source, and they're going to be looking for an ignition source. Now, fuel sources and ignition sources are in every home in America. But really what they want to know is what brought those two together. Was it accidental? Was it on purpose? That's really where the investigation begins. But to show the complexity of it, look at that debris field. Look how wide it is, how many homes are affected. They're probably looking for parts of gas lines or air conditioners or different things in the home that could be as small as 1 to 2 inches, and they have to search that entire field in a grid pattern. So it could be some time. They have a long, arduous task ahead of them, but they're working very hard. And as I know, the public safety personnel there in the city, they are top notch.
And Troy, you know, we were talking earlier that this, a lot of people are asking, well, one, why does it take time? But also that could it have been anything else other than natural gas causing a tragedy like this?
Well, I don't know the particulars of the investigation, but I will tell you that anytime you have an explosion this large and you have a debris field this large, you almost have to treat it like a crime scene because you're looking for such minute particles and such minute pieces of equipment that may lead you to the origin of that explosion. But most of the time, not all the time, most of the time you can find something that was faulty as far as because age infrastructure at the home or something that allowed natural gas in, but that's not always the case. Sometimes people have chemistry labs. Sometimes they have illegal drug operations. There's nothing that gives me reason to think that was going on, but those are some other reasons that you could have an explosion similar to what you saw there. But remember, for an explosion that large, it had to be a pretty significant fuel source.
Very briefly, Troy, obviously you were on top of the Richmond Hill tragedy, and we have some video, I believe, archive of Richmond Hill and the magnitude of that blast. That turned into a case of murder. But with today's social media and people talking the technology, you have to put that aside often to look at the facts. But how long did it take you to determine the cause of this blast in the Indianapolis area some 10 years ago?
To determine to a place where we could actually prosecute someone, a few months. We determined early on that we thought it was criminal in nature from the very beginning, not just because of what we were seeing at the scene, because we were talking about new infrastructure, and quite frankly, because citizens were calling and giving us information regarding the potential suspects that seemed very unusual for the character of someone that had just gone through this type of explosion. So it brings another point in this, is that if people saw something or they see something that's unusual, give the investigators a call. It doesn't mean it was criminal, but you may see something like work was done nearby and they didn't realize that there was damage done. So the public could have the information that investigators are looking for. Do not be hesitant to call and let the investigators know. Remember, they're searching an entire debris field. Any assistance they can get will be extremely helpful.
And, you know, it is a small world. There was a local connection to Richmond Hill. the disaster there, right here in our tri-state area. This is a picture of John Dion Longworth and his wife. They perished in that tragedy in Indianapolis, and he had at one time lived in the Henderson area. How does this hit you when you go home at night, being an investigator, after the cameras have left and so forth, and you're done investigating, although I guess you're not done at all investigating. You probably do this in your sleep, but how does that impact you as an investigator?
Well, it impacts the investigators because the investigators get to know the people in their lives of those that have been lost. They get to know those that have been left behind. They feel an obligation to them for answers, as anyone that wears a uniform does. But let's not also forget those first responders, those neighbors that saw things that no one should ever see in humanity, that's going to have to deal with that the rest of their lives. And one thing I know about Indiana from living there and enjoying the Hoosier hospitality firsthand is if there's a time for that, it's now, where citizens wrap their arms around these first responders and also reach out to those that are adversely affected by these explosions. I know there's been some homes that have probably been condemned. They've given numbers out. That is likely to increase dramatically over the next week or months. And so it's a time where fellow Hoosiers can help other Hoosiers by helping them rebuild their lives. And when people see individuals rallying around them, it gives them hope. And it lets them know that there's going to be better days ahead. But it's going to be difficult for a while. I would also say for anybody having trouble, find a house of faith, go worship, go get counseling, do what makes you feel better as an individual. That's going to give you something to lean on, because it's a difficult time and it's going to come back, and you're going to remember these things every time something like this happens. I can guarantee you that the first responders that responded to Richmond Hills are reliving some of what they saw because of this explosion.
And Troy Riggs is now a pastor in Texas. He has retired, but still lends his perspective, consulting public safety groups.